Okay. So, call the meeting to order. I'm not going to be able to see who's making motions, but the first thing, there's no public forum. We have to review the minutes, and they were sent out. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Yes.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Aye.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there's no public forum. And water. John, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Just got a few updates, and we'll talk a little bit about the revenues, too, that I sent out a handout earlier. Hope everybody got it. But the meter project, we're hoping to start that up fairly soon. We're trying to get the protocols in place for the contractor to enter people's homes and, you know, how we handle temperature checks and things like that on their employees. So we're hoping that we can start sending out letters and making appointments fairly soon. So we can try to get that going while we are at this lull, hopefully, which continues for a while in Massachusetts in this area. But we'd like to get that ramped up. They just started to do this type of stuff across the state, so we're in line with what other people are doing too. A couple of them have started up, you know, this week and next week. So, and hopefully we can get it done by the end of the calendar year, because the other system is basically, you know, is dying per se, having a lot of issues with the batteries dying in the units at the houses, but also with the software, which is no longer supported by Badger Meter. It hadn't been for some time anyway, because they had wanted us to spend about 30 grand on upgrades and software and things like that, but we knew we were changing to Neptune. So, so if you get a notice or hear people get notices, that you know, that'll be us getting that going again. So, any questions at all on that?
No.
Everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
The cross-connection control program, basically all the backflow testing and surveys of buildings and things like that for cross connections, basically stopped with the coronavirus. We have been doing some testing, but for the most part, it was just basically suspended, and that was in the, you know, following DEP's guidance for that type of thing. So they're not going to require us to do all the low hazard, which is like in the condos and things like that, those backflow tests this year, but are going to require us by the end of the year to get all our high hazard backflow devices, something in, you know, maybe dentist office, funeral homes and things like that. If there is one, those are the type of tests that we needed to get done. So that's fortunate, because our head person in that department headed up the cross connection control program, and also the meter room left in February abruptly, took another job, but we haven't had any luck in hiring somebody new. We did advertise at New England Waterworks, Mass Waterworks, any place that we could think of. We got one outside applicant who had no experience whatsoever, not even an ounce of it. We had two internal candidates that they just don't have the experience necessary to do it. So we're trying to figure out how to address that. You know, that's something we, you know, have to be in compliance with, you know, to meet all of Mass DEP's regulations, but we may end up subbing some more of the stuff out just to get it done and to meet all the regulations. So I'm really hesitant to hire somebody that, you know, requires years of training, you know, and then get them a year or two into it, and then they go someplace else. So we really need to think of how we want to go with this forward. And I've been talking to the HR director about this as well. So, but it's kind of a thing that, you know, Jennifer, Missy, myself, and Steve Neal, the distribution manager, each have taken on part of this. But at some point, once this thing ramps back up to where we have to, you know, do all the testing, you know, at the end of this year, beginning of next year again, you know, at full speed, that it could become an issue keeping up with everything. So Just wanted to make people aware of that, and just like I said, we're going to try to advertise again, but I don't hold a lot of hope for it considering how few applicants we got the last time. So there's just not a lot of people with that type of expertise are going into this field. So it's a bit of a dilemma for us. So next thing on my list is the water rate revenues. I did send out that handout Missy had put together for me with our monthly commitments. I was just trying to see what the impacts have been with the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's tough to really analyze all the data. I look back at other years. Of course, there was different water rates and things like that, but I find some of it is as much weather related as it is to perhaps the pandemic. I know that last year in the spring and early summer, it was fairly wet, and our revenues were down a bit. In fact, the first month of the FY20, July 2019, our monthly commitment for water was $436,000 versus $536,000 the year before. July of 2018 was drier. So that kind of put us off at a disadvantage with $100,000 less than the previous year. But we did pretty well going into, in this fiscal year of August, September, October, November. Things were, up for the most part. January was okay. February started to see a decrease, and then March billing and the April billing and the May billing, we definitely saw some drops there, which, we kind of had recovered that a bit from July, but then it seems that, that there was decreased water usage, and it seems to be associated with the pandemic. People staying at home. We don't have as much use in our commercial facilities, particularly someplace like Great Wolf, so that's hurt us quite a bit. The other thing that worked against us this year is that, even though we had a mild winter overall, it wasn't too bad, perhaps less mild than previous ones, but we did have a cool spring and wet spring. In April, for example, was the coldest April on record in our area. So, and that's reflected in the May billing being down quite a bit. So the combination of people being home, restaurants not open, commercial, industrial facilities closed down, it kind of hurt us. We did bounce back in June, which was the May usage, the June billing. I think it's just because it turned so dry in May that, people were out doing things in their yards. I mean, it was, seen in Home Depot, Lowe's, there was a lot of home projects going on, I think a lot of lawns and things like that. So that helped us a bit, and actually had a pretty good billing in June, the highest one so far. And I don't know how many years, probably, forever, perhaps. But overall for the year, FY 2020 versus FY 2019, we're down about $220,000 in revenues. I think a lot of it, like I said, we did add a first month of the fiscal year in July 2019. They kind of hurt a bit. I thought we were going to be all right through the winter months, and then with the coronavirus, we did have some impacts that basically left us down for the year. So, and this is the second full year, 2020, at the rate of $4.20 for usage over 200 cubic feet. Now, these commitments only reflect water usage revenue. Doesn't reflect other things that we bill out for. I just want to make that notation. But we've had a pretty dry June as well, so maybe we'll see, hopefully better than the July billing last year. We'll see some higher revenues for that. So I'm just not sure what the impacts are going to be on the road. And there is some talk of some assistance for, water and sewer utilities to the federal government for some of this, but I'm not sure how much of that is going to pan out. So we'll have to see how that impacts us. So, but basically, like you can see that the bottom line, like I said, we're down 220,000. We're even down about almost 100,000 from FY 2018 in the water usage revenues. So, all right. Any questions on any of that, or?
Doesn't look that way.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully hopefully the dry weather that we're having will help us, you know, in the coming couple of months, but maybe help offset some of the impacts of the coronavirus. And we know people are getting back to work, and, you know, but I'm not sure when Great Wolf or if Great Wolf will open anytime soon. They're our largest water user, so that's definitely hurting us. So, and it's hurting the city as well, of course, with their revenues from, you know, hotel room taxes and things like that. So, but I will keep you posted. I'm going to do updates. I'm going to provide some additional analysis in the coming monthly meetings, just to kind of give it a little bit better data, or maybe try to look at precipitation and things like that, and see what the impacts are that have on revenues, so we can kind of have a better idea for long-term trends. So,
John, the next monthly meeting is going to be in September. Did you want to update the commission prior to September?
yeah, I can do that. I'm going to send it out each time. I'll send out an updated one of these from here on out each time that you know, we generate our commitment for the monthly billing. So, like I said, I'm going to try to. This is kind of something we put together in the last couple of days. I wanted to have something for you, you know, not just a discussion, but some figures for you to actually look back over time. And, you know, this will, you know, if we do have to raise rates, and, you know, of course, we'll have to have a water rate study, but this will be good data for that, and kind of have a better idea of where we're going, where the ship's moving, you know, what direction we're headed in. So, like I said, hopefully, you know, the dry weather we're having and people doing outside projects will help us a bit with that. So, the unfortunate thing, which is the next thing on my agenda, is the annual water use restrictions. So, we did have to institute those on June 2nd, which I wasn't happy about, but we're governed by the Water Management Act for our watersheds, and Mass DEP's regulations of the state regulations. But once the Nashua River fell below the 62 cubic feet per second level for 3 consecutive days, we had to institute those. So we're actually at a lower level now. We have to be above the 24 cubic feet per second for July. So we can look at maybe taking them off. We could do it, but sometimes I'm uneasy about it going up and down, and we don't really strictly enforce it. We try to make sure people aren't running sprinkler systems in the middle of the day or when it's raining and stuff. And I've talked to people, including city departments, about some of their irrigation systems and stuff, just trying to get them in compliance as much as possible. So we also need the revenue too. So, and people are also at home. I also feel bad for them if they are at home and they are doing yard work. You hate to see them put all that work into a lawn and lose it. So, and the thing is, we got plenty of water. I know there's a drought right now, that, you know, drought advisory issued by the state, but we have plenty of water of our reservoirs, and the rain we'll be getting the next few days, and the rain we get last week really, you know, slowed down the drop in them. So we'll follow the permit by instituting these, but at the same time, if, you know, people are using water and not wasting it, or watering, you know, irrigation systems in the middle of a, you know, all day rain, then we're not going to say too much. So that's just my personal opinion. So, and like I said, some people have put a lot of work in their yards and gardens and things like that, and to be heavy-handed at this time, I don't think it's appropriate myself. But okay, that's pretty much all I have. Like I said, despite not having the meeting next week, I'll send out the monthly commitment for you know, the next couple months and stuff, so that you have that information. We'll start adding on to this the database of monthly commitments, just so we can see where we're going in the future.
Good.
And any other questions or anything?
Any questions? Doesn't look that way, John.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, if I could be indulged, I just wanted to juggle the script a little bit on the wastewater agenda. At the very beginning of the wastewater agenda, I've got two bullets that are kind of holdovers from when we were doing ordinance work. You may remember that we had Wright Pierce doing a local limit study that was looking at the pollutant loading we could receive at the East plant from industrial sources. Well, we went through this process with EPA, and EPA ended up approving our local limits. So in their eyes, this is final, but in order for this to be implementable and enforceable on our ends, we need to get it codified. So I've got two separate items where I'm going to request that the commission votes to support an ordinance change. I've listed them in order of how they appear in the ordinance right now, which of course is Chapter 147 of the City Code. The first item is not the local limits, but it's actually the sewer connection fees. There was a little bit of, I think, to be quite honest, a mix-up with our consultant that was assisting us, and we ended up pulling the sewer connection fees out of the ordinance with the intention of having it in the rules and regs. But hindsight being 2020, in the fact that the City Council doesn't allow the commission to set rates or fees, I think it makes more sense to have that reinserted back verbatim the way that it appeared. So we're not changing any of the charge rates. We're just reintroducing it back into the sewer ordinance. So what this would be doing for the sewer connection permit fees would be amending Chapter 147, Section 10, subparagraph D, to reintroduce that old language. And that old language, I'm not sure if you got my email from late this afternoon. I presented the actual connection fee language. It's actually visually shown in a way that's easy to read too, and I hope I can get the city solicitor to agree to this type of formatting just to make it easier for someone trying to read this and to make sense of it. So that's item number one. I don't know, Rick, if you think we need to do this one vote at a time.
Let's do it. Let's present them both. If we have any controversy on them, we'll split them apart. Otherwise, I'll accept the motion to approve them both.
Okay. So again, following the sequence that appears in the sewer ordinance, the second piece has to do with the local limits that I made reference to before. In the email, you see I have a photograph inserted, JPEG image. What that is the maximum allowable industrial loading. So it's actually this presentation that would actually be incorporated into the ordinance. And it's using this information that we construct our industrial use permits for the industrial customers that we have. We don't have a lot of customers, but we do have one entity that we're trying to roll into the program too, which is the Wachusett Brewing Company. They are a brewery, and it's kind of unconventional for people to think of a brewery as an industrial customer, but their discharges have very wildly ranging pHs from very low to very high, depending on if they're doing a cleaning process on any of their vessels. It's also very high in total suspended solids and also very high in BOD, many times higher than the strength that comes from domestic household toilet flushes, usually an order of magnitude, at least one order of magnitude higher than domestic. So I'm requesting that the Commission supports the introduction of this detail into the ordinance. This would be inserting in Chapter 147, Section 18, specific local limitations.
Does anybody have questions on either of these amendments? Okay, if I don't hear any questions on it, would someone like to make a motion that we incorporate these two amendments to the ordinance?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Informally, before the meeting started, we were chit-chatting about the investigative work we're doing in the city's siphon sewers, and the sewer system manager, Tony Maressa, incorporated into this project an investigative study of the trunk sewer, which is on Elm Street. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some screen sharing here so you can see visuals. I've got two particular visuals for you to get a handle on where this is. The first one's going to be a Google Earth image, and the second one's going to be a GIS map that's produced by our wastewater GIS engineer. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to do a screen share. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, this first image is a Google Earth image, and the area in question I have is red clouded here. You'll see 3 yellow dots. Those yellow dots represent sewer manholes. This particular sewer was built in 1885. It was an egg-shaped sewer. That is to say, its geometry looks like an upside-down egg that's standing on its pointy end. It's 39 inches in height, and its upper diameter is 26 inches. So it's a large-sized sewer. It's actually a combined sewer. So in dry weather, this sewer line typically transmits through it about 3 million gallons per day. Because it's a combined sewer, our flows spike traveling through this sewer, and it'll get upwards of 32 million gallons per day. This sewer serves a number of important establishments within the city, including Crocker Elementary, Longs Joe Middle School, the Fitchburg Art Museum, the courthouse, the post office, the senior center, part of the Burbank Hospital campus, and more. So it's what I call critical infrastructure in the sewer system. In the course of the work that the investigator is doing, which is Ted Berry Company, they were doing cleaning and an investigation of sewers, and they identified this particular run as being very structurally problematic and something that we should address promptly. We would be doing this within the budget. The actual project itself for Ted Berry came in considerably under budget, so it gives some extra flexibility within the capital piece of the annual budget. So this particular image is just here to give you a good location idea of where this is located. The next one I'm going to share is a GIS map. This one, you see the green lines, those are the sewer lines, which are upstream of this problem area. And the problem area is the red hatched area at the bottom of the screen. And just for the commission's benefit, I introduced this image graphic, which is a typical cross-section of an egg-shaped brick sewer. So as I said, it looks like an upside-down egg sitting on its pointy end. The upper radius is that 26-inch diameter, and its overall height would be from the crown to the invert, and that's the 39-inch dimension. These types of sewers first originated in Britain in the 1800s, and we adopted this style shortly after the Brits came up with it. So you can see all these green sewer lines that are upstream of this particular sewer, and at the very northernmost reach is where the Crocker Elementary is. And you see over here on the left-hand side the Burbank campus. So this is extremely concerning. This is not something that I'm looking to make a supplemental appropriation, so I'm not looking to get a vote from the commission. This is simply informational at this point. The intention is to address this critical asset repair or rehabilitation within the budget dollars that we already have. Does anyone have any questions on this?
Jeff, my only question is, what does this connect to? Is it more 1885 stuff, or is it newer stuff?
Well, it does connect to some older stuff, but it was this particular stretch that we had concerns about. If this were to be the tip of the iceberg and it would present, and we were to discover more problems, that would be a game changer, and we would have to take a different tact. Right now, we think that this is the scope limit of what we need to address.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Aside from that, let me end the screen share here. We don't need this image anymore. Back to the agenda items. The SSU project is really in the wind down stage. We had a couple issues with our larger secondary clarifier tanks. There were mechanical pieces of the work that the contractor did, or subcontractors, I should say, where the metal coating systems had failures. So we had to have that repaired while the work was still under warranty. So we've had them come back this year, and they just finished one of the 2 large diameter clarifiers. So the coatings, the new coatings just finished curing, or they're gonna finish curing tomorrow. And then we'll have to address any cleanup necessary within that tank before we start refilling it. Once we refill the first one they've completed, we'll have to drain out the second one and do a surface cleaning to make it ready for the contractor to pick up the remaining clarifiers work. We're expecting that this last clarifier, it'll take about 3 weeks to finish that up. So it'll be right up against the wire for the contractor's current final completion date, which is the end of July. He's also working on some other punch list items of various kinds, including some SCADA stuff. But right now it appears that things are progressing fairly well to hitting final completion on this project. It's a little bit tough having these big clarifiers down because the 2 big clarifiers handle 60% of the design flow, and the 2 smallers handle 40. So when you lose one of them, you're losing 30% of your capacity. So we're really looking forward to this project being done and having full operational capacity of the treatment plant again. Before these shutdowns, to address this immediate need of warranty work, the plant had all tanks firing all cylinders, and we were getting very good performance, treatment performance from the system. So we're very optimistic that this is gonna be a good performer. And after this project, our intention is to turn more of our focus and more of our attention to the collection system and start peeling off more of that rainwater and getting it out of the system, because it's the rainwater that overloads the hydraulic capacity of the plant, forcing us to bypass secondary treatment. But right now, things are pointing in a good direction for the performance of the secondary system upgrade. With that segue on sewer systems, we are queued up to get our next separation job out to bid, and that should be happening this month. It should be advertised this month. So we would end up receiving bids likely within the month of August. This timeline is a little bit behind where we wanted to be, but we were adversely impacted by the COVID pandemic in our ability to get this process through the SRF program. But we are marching forward on this, and we should be getting this next separation job under contract this year. We talked about the, okay, SSES Phase 4. This is part of our multi-phased SSES work, which is the Sewer System Evaluation Survey. And what that consent decree requirement is purposed for is to look for sources of excessive infiltration and inflow. So the Phase 4 is for the interceptor sewer. So we have the report submitted to us by Weston and Sampson. We just have to finish up our review comments and get it back to Weston, and then Weston and Sampson will submit the Phase 4 report to EPA and DEP for review and approval. EPA and DEP have not been very good at all about reviewing and approving or commenting on anything we submit to them. That being said, we still march forward to stay in compliance with our consent decree requirements. At the tail end of this year, we'll be submitting our second iteration of the wastewater management plan, again without having gotten feedback from EPA and DEP on our first submission. We also have a combination manhole separation project that Weston is working on us for. And this is going to give us a bidding document. And the intention with this bidding document is to parcel it into chunks where we could do phased projects of combination manhole separations. We have had some good success doing combination manhole separations through the city's Chapter 90 contractor that is under contract to DPW. And very shortly, they'll be picking up a couple more combination manholes to separate for us. So we have had some good progress on this front, despite a COVID impact. We talked about the siphon cleaning. That's what brought the Elm Street sewer problem to light. I just had a couple general updates at the tail end, unless anyone had any questions on the subjects I've just talked about.
Any questions? Okay, I guess we're ready, John. Jeff?
Okay. I'll forgive you for calling me John.
I'm sorry.
The very first miscellaneous bullet I had was simply a comment update on the successful year we had for rain barrels. This was our third year in the program, and after our second year, we had a dramatic drop in sales from year one to year two. So in my mind, this was kind of a make or break year for this program. If we had another lousy year, then we probably would have said, okay, this isn't for Fitchburg. But surprisingly, we ended up selling 176 rain barrels, which are more than years 1 and 2 combined. So it was late in the month of June, a couple Saturdays ago, when we did the distribution event out at the West Plant. Because the number of sales was so good here, we intend to carry this a year forward to a year number 4, and we'll do the distribution event at the East Plant. We had some logistical headaches that makes us want to go away from the West Plant. So year number 4 will be distributing at the East. We have executed our on-call construction contract. This is an on-call construction contract that is available to wastewater, water, and DPW. I know that the engineering division, who is in charge of the stormwater system and also the dams, intend to engage this contractor for some support work on repairing dams. We had 2 big projects that were actually built into the bid. One was the river stabilization project over by the East Plant. You may remember we had that washout that exposed the water main servicing the East Plant. It pushed the joints apart, and we ended up having a loss of water service for a period of time. So what we did back then was we relocated the alignment of the water main to move it away from the river. But if you were to do that and then forget about it, the river's going to keep on moving. And it may not be Jeff Morosky sitting in this seat, but it may be the guy that comes after Jeff Morosky that has the same problem where the river keeps moving. So we went through the permitting process with conservation to get an order of conditions, and we have that in place, and it was incorporated into the bidding documents. So we've got the contractor, who is Blue Diamond Equipment, lined up to begin this work, and they should be beginning it next week, I believe. That was project 1 for wastewater that was built into the bid of the on-call. Project 2 that was built into the bid for the on-call was the Highview Sewer rehabilitation and replacement project. This is a an area where we've had a number of problems in the alignment is some funky alignment that I think was initially constructed to avoid some ledge. So we have this defined and designed as a project that we intend to construct this construction season as well after the river project wraps up. What we'll end up doing, the wastewater group will have a kickoff meeting, a neighborhood meeting, just to advise and inform everyone in the neighborhood that will be affected by this project and try to get off on the right foot with these neighbors and abutters. We'll also do a pre-construction video of this street just to help nip things in the bud to protect the city, protect the contractor, and protect the residents. So we want to make sure that we know what these existing conditions are before the contractor gets in there and starts doing some work. So this project is planned to take place within this construction season. And that was the last update that I planned for the commission. Any questions?
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff?
No.
Okay. Oh, we got a question. Did someone have a question? No.
No.
Okay.
I must
there
have
any
been
other
thorough.
Okay, good job. Any other business? Okay, hearing none. The next meeting's Wednesday, September 9th. Probably still going to be on Zoom, but we'll see what happens.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
No, that was correct.
Correct.
Next
Okay.
meeting
good.
is in September.
Yes, in September. Great.
September 9th.
Okay. If there's no other business, then I'll accept the motion to adjourn,
Aye.
and we are adjourned.